The Washoe County Library System welcomes you to our monthly series from the Nevada Historical Society, presents High Noon with Neal Cobb. This afternoon's topic is about Verdi History Center and the Verdi Public School Restoration, presented by Nancy Benson and Bud Mosconi. My name is Samantha, and I'm so happy to be here with you today. And now I'd like to introduce Sherry Hazorn with the Nevada Historical Society. Again, thank you and welcome.
Thank you, Samantha, and hello, everyone. Thank you so much for signing up and joining us today for our High Noon Shootout with Neal Cobb. And it's such a great partnership. We've been working with the library ever since COVID really came on, and it's been a great way to be able to get these wonderful programs out to a wider audience, because then they're recorded and people can watch them at any time. So we really appreciate working with our partnership with the Washoe County Libraries, and of course Carol Coleman and Sam Coleman as well, helping us get prepared for these events online. So I always want to thank them as well. Without further ado, let me introduce the host of our show and our honorary curator, Neal Cobb. Hey, Neal, how are you today?
Doing great, Sherry. Thanks a million for the intro. I wanted to talk about the Verdi Historical Preservation Society. Now, that is the official name, but it didn't start that way. It started with a young lady that we had to search out. And I say we, Jerry Fenwick and I were there taking photos and trying to get some documentation to match the Verdi Inn, which was one of the best eating houses that you would ever be able to patronize and see what's happened to it. We asked some kids over there at the local beauty shop. He says, who has got some good information on the history of Verdi? And boy, they sang in chime, Barbara Ting, you got to talk to Barbara Ting. She knows everything about Verdi, and she's very enthusiastic about it, and she loves to talk about it. So I wanted to make darn good and sure that things, the credit really went to one person's desire to go ahead and put Verdi on the map historically, because it has a great history. So there are things that had changed, like now most of us call it the Verdi History Center. That's what it says on the t-shirt that I'm wearing. In fact, all of us wore the t-shirts when we did the program for Ollie. But it started off with what? They said, find Barbara, find Barbara Ting. So this is where it goes. They have been able today to rely on other people that know a lot about Verdi. Barbara unfortunately can't be with us today, but she has quality people that are going to be introduced down the line, starting with Nancy Benson. And of course, Bud, her brother, is going to tune in too. So I want to welcome the participants of this High Noon series, Nancy Benson, Barbara, in Barbara's name, and Bud. It's all yours.
Well, welcome. Would you like to introduce yourselves? So Neal gave a eloquent little bit of history about your organization, but let's learn a little bit about both of you and how you guys have been involved in the Verdi Historical Preservation Society.
Want to start?
You start.
I'm Nancy, and I actually moved to Verdi in 2005, and around 2006 or 2007, when the Verdi Historical Society was meeting at the library, I went for a visit and of course fell in love with the history, and Barbara and I have worked, what's the years now, 22. So we've worked almost 15 years putting together the museum. We have over 100, I believe 120 binders that we have done, either on the families in Verdi the history of Verdi, the various businesses that were in Verdi, etc. And it has been my privilege to work beside her. You're right, she knows everything. She remembers everything. And so we just keep the museum going as quickly, pardon me, that's not the word I want, as easily as possible. Unfortunately, with COVID, it closed and we haven't opened since. We don't have the volunteers that we had before. And most of the people that work there are not young anymore. So do what we can to keep it going. And I'm going to put it over to Bud.
Yeah. Well, I got involved. I've lived here all my life, and I went to grammar school at this Verdi school. I was the last 8th grade out of here. And when it became vacant 13 years ago, after the Verdi volunteers left, it just sat. And there was rumors that they were going to tear it down, et cetera, et cetera. So we says, hey, this belongs to Verdi. We want to keep it in Verdi. So a few of us took it upon ourselves to start maintaining the building, the grounds. But as time went on, things were disappearing. And finally, the county said, lock it up. And it sat with us taking charge for about 10 years. And then about 3 years ago, the county signed it over, thanks to Dave Solero, signed it over to the Verdi History Center. And it was a ball getting back in here after 70 years and tearing the walls and redoing everything totally with volunteers, because we had no money at the time. So, a little side note, one of the funnest things when I knocked a hole in the wall in the staircase, we found school books and a baseball mitt from 1931. So those were the things that make this thing interesting and fun.
Well, that's fascinating because, yeah, I was curious how the organization, I mean, you're definitely preserving history, but, you know, how it came to be, how you were able to get the 1926 public school. Can you talk a little bit about, I know your organization started back in 2002. Do you know what year you guys got your first building, and talk a little bit about, you know, how you guys started out? Because then I know you worked to expand it, and I find it fascinating. It's amazing what your small organization has done. It's wonderful.
Well, the school, the museum was originally the Justice Court, and it was actually across the street in the 30s and 40s, if I'm not mistaken. And then it was moved to its location on 2nd Street. During the 40s and 50s, there was a Quonset hut if you're looking at the pictures, to the right of it, which was the volunteer fire department. And then there's another building to the left of it, which enclosed the local post office. So how we got this building, I wish Barbara was here to tell you, but we did get it deeded to us in 2007. From there, we filled it up with what we could, with artifacts that were given to us by local families. And then through donations through the years, we were able to add on the addition. And that was done about 7-8 years ago, I believe. And the museum's been as it is, as you can see on the left-hand side, as it is today. It's green. Everybody knows where it is, and it's just full of wonderful, wonderful history.
Well, can you talk about, you know, you were talking a little bit about what your collections kind of represent. You were talking about how you guys have received donations and have compiled like history binders. Can you talk a little bit more about the types of materials you've gotten, like original items, or you know, I can see you have I know you have some outdoor equipment as well. Can you talk about the types of wonderful artifacts and materials you have in your collection?
Well, let me see, I have to go around the room. We have a lot of, we were able to get glass, they were jewelry cases, and we were able to get those. So our artifacts are in that. We have one case that is completely filled to the brim, actually, of the fire department. We have jackets, we have old fire extinguishers, various things that were used by the firemen way before some of us were even born, probably. We have a baseball cabinet, and those go back to the 30 uniforms from the 30s, and some trophies that the local baseball team had won through the years. Power company, we have a lot of stuff from the power company. There's meters, and what else is there?
Well, there's all kinds of Sierra Pacific memorabilia, from insulators and all kinds of stuff from the power company.
Right, and we do have some, ledgers from them also. Let me see, the next over is
stuff from the ice plant from Boca.
right,
And the ice brick we used to use along the power company ditch. And the equipment from the ranches around here.
right.
Some is right in front of the History Center. And back of the old school now, we required a lot of the old ranching equipment that was used, that they donated. We have back here.
Yeah, we have, let me think. We have some stuff from the Verdi Lumber Company, which was the,
Nice.
I guess you would say it was what really made Verdi.
Yeah.
Because Verdi began in 1868, and Mr. Longkey built the Verdi Lumber Company. From the Verdi Lumber Company, the leftovers went to the box factory, which they made the crates for the fruit down in Southern California. And you know the old crate labels that you find online, that's where these boxes came from. The crate labels were put on these boxes and sent down to Southern California. And what else was there? Oh, there was the Inyo
Marble Works.
Yeah.
When they brought marble from Inyo, California, and made columns, and then they were sent down to Sacramento and used in the Capitol buildings. And it was quite a thing back in
late 1800s.
97.
Yeah, something like that.
Something like that, I think.
Wow.
And then as you go around the room, I'm trying to think of as we go around the room, basically we have lots of little things from the various restaurants that used to be here in town, the menus, and the old grocery store that actually Bud and Barbara family, their parents owned, was one of the original grocery stores here in town, which was also the bus stop in town. Before Highway 40 came in, 2nd Street, where their home still stands, was the main street.
That was Highway 40.
Yeah. So things have changed around here quite a bit. But yes, I mean, I could keep going around the room, but I can't remember everything. I apologize, but our cabinets are just filled with wonderful memorabilia that has all been donated to us, which we have found a few things on eBay, but but most of it has come from other families.
Yeah,
Well, that's amazing. So have a lot of people donated like original photos, or have they lent photos so you guys could scan or get copies, or a little of both?
A little of both.
To help. Okay.
And that's where our binders come in, because there's families, there's pictures of Verdi, there's different pictures of what the town used to look like. So where we acquired them from, I'm sorry, I can't tell you. I don't know, but we have them. Most of the photos are given to us, and we, again, make the binder to go with those photos, so people can enjoy them. And then there are families that have said, gee, these are our photos, do what you want with them, but we want them back. And that's fine, because fortunately we have computers and we have a way to make copies. And it has just been most enjoyable to put these binders together.
Yeah, once you got started and people saw what was going on, they really came forward with stuff. As, oh, I remember my grandmother had this or that, and they would donate it. So
That's wonderful, because that's how it usually starts for most museums is, a small group, wanting to preserve the history, and then the community and or families that have left find out and want to try to find a good home for items to to help tell the story of the community. So I knew you guys have done so much work, over the years. So when somebody wants to come and do research, of course, before COVID, I know you guys were open a couple of days a week, but what kind of when people come to your like to the History Center, would they are they looking, for family history, or a little of how does that work with you guys? Have you done like programs or
Well, our goal was programs, and COVID hit, and obviously that just threw everything into a tizzy. But mostly when people want to come see, because we don't have the volunteers we are only open by appointment now, but we would be happy to open if anybody wants to see. But if you haven't been to Verdi lately and seen all the new homes that have built around Verdi and Boomtown, it is amazing. And we do get a few of those people that want to know about the town. And so they have come in to actually see what Verdi was all about.
That's nice.
So that's how we've done it lately. Like I say, we just open through appointments because we just don't have the volunteers to keep it open.
Okay. Well, can you, I was gonna say, I know you guys have done many things over time. I've seen on like Facebook and that you guys have worked on trying to help clean up and preserve the cemetery up there. Do you guys want to talk a little bit about that? I think that's a wonderful thing of, trying to make sure, like you said, things don't disappear, but, people aren't forgotten too. And
cemetery kind of started out as a boot hill, so to speak. A lot of the Chinese were here building the railroad, and they were kind of buried up there on the hill. So I was just a kid about the old timers taking care of it, and now I am one of them. And so they said, okay, you're the director now. So we started a project to put up signs and get the cemetery deeded over to us. Actually, that was back in late 60s, probably. It was finally officially deeded as a cemetery. And one great there, we were looking, is a 15-year-old girl from 1864. So that's an old cemetery.
Yeah.
We're in the process of, I think we're pretty well there now, got it cleaned up and deeded over to the town of Verdi. But it's called the Crystal Peak Cemetery, because that's what Verdi was.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's a whole interesting thing too, because the first time I was like Crystal Peak, but yeah, no, it's fascinating. Well, I'm so glad to hear that, because I know I've seen pictures, I knew that your group has done a lot with it. So I didn't realize that what was all involved. And that's wonderful that now the cemetery truly belongs to Verdi. That's awesome.
Once a year, we have a day that we ask the town to come up there and help us clean it up, so we can pick up all the needles and clean it. And we just did it a month ago.
And it's a big success. People really come forward and clean it up, and it's really looking pretty good now.
Yeah, even people that don't have anybody up there, they come up and with their rakes and help us out.
That's wonderful. Well, cemeteries, I think they're such an important part of, they used to be almost like parks and ways for families and community to get out, and to visit. But, a lot of times they had lawns and, and people would picnic at cemeteries. So it's a wonderful thing to help preserve these cemeteries, because a lot of times the pioneers, the people that started these communities, they're there, and you don't want to forget that. So it's very exciting. So you started talking, a little bit ago, you were talking about how the 1926 public school came to you guys. So, you guys have owned it now for truly 3+ years. What made you decide to take it on? And so it's now kind of like your community center and a museum. Can you talk about how that came to be? And is it so now you have 2 facilities? Or what are you guys going to do? I guess that would be the next thing, because it's amazing the project that you've done and all the work with the wonderful people that have donated time, and so I think it's important for people to know what the good work you've done so far.
Well, the main function of this was to be the new museum, and
Okay.
eventually will become mainly the museum.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as the community, what we're doing is trying to get Verdi back to Verdi the way it was, which will never happen, but you know what I mean. But we have community functions, weddings, picnics, get-togethers, retirement parties, because we have big grounds and we have the facilities to handle it up to a point. But and fundraisers, to help maintain everything we're doing.
When the volunteer fire department had this building, they used to have barbecues every year, and out on the grounds. And so the Verdi History Center or Museum took that over quite a few years ago, and we used to have it at the museum. But now that we have the grounds here, we had a barbecue last year here, and it was a huge success. And we're having one the 13th of August this year.
Thanks.
And so we invite the community to come. That's an old picture. So just to say that, that's how we raise our money. Everything is through donation. We don't charge, we ask a donation. So if you're going to use the building, if you're going to use the kitchen, if you're going to use the grounds, for whatever, we ask for a donation. And that's how we continue on our work that we're doing for this place.
Well, it's wonderful. So I was looking at your list, and it looks like, a lot of people have donated, time, money, supplies. So you had mentioned that the school sat for a while, but the fire department. So was the fire department overseeing the building, or it just kind of sat empty? I was just kind of curious about that, because it's an awesome building.
They actually just walked away from it. It was their furniture. It was their filing cabinets. It was amazing what was left here, and we had to. Unfortunately, most of it was not in the best shape, and we had to dump it. But I mean, we were able to go through the filing cabinets and find old pictures or things that we found that we found lists of gentlemen that were the volunteer fire department way back when that we didn't have. So I mean, it was a treasure trove here, but a lot of it was unfortunately had to be just dumped.
Okay. Wow. It's amazing. And so what's exciting is just seeing the pictures, and one of the pictures, I only added so many to this PowerPoint, but did you know that there used to be I mean, it would make sense of the day, but that there was the fire, that there was a chimney and a fireplace, because I had seen some pictures where you guys were unearthing it, and were you surprised, or you knew about it, I guess, as you were working on remodeling the building?
Yeah, I went to school here for 8 years, and to my surprise, when we first started doing it, Walt Walker, 92 years old, and he's the one that walked up and says, underneath that tile was wood floors. And we went, wow. So we started peeling up the tile, and we got these beautiful wood floors, I think. I mean, and we professionally, we had the hallway done because it was in such bad shape. But the other that you're looking at, we did ourselves. We peeled up everything and cleaned them up best we could. And there's the old wood floors. And then the brick fireplace, we had no idea. I don't remember that at all. And Walt says, hey, behind that, there's a chimney. So we broke away the plaster, and sure enough, there it is on both sides. And we did have an original heating stove that was used back when, but we do need the other side. So one on each side of the room. But, that was fun.
Oh, absolutely. I imagine it was very exciting just seeing, and, seeing some of the pictures you guys were, you were going back to the studs and to, removing, the old plaster, and so you can see the lathe. And so it's, you want to talk a little bit about the ceilings, because in these pictures you can see the wood. So it's amazing. Seems like for the most part, it's in pretty good condition, correct?
Correct. What we didn't realize, like the one picture there in the hallway that you're looking at, we had that gentleman climb up in there, and actually there's 3 roofs on there that we didn't even know were up there. That I guess they just kept bringing the roof down. And it was just how it ended up. But then it's plaster, and once you got the plaster off, everything was in really good shape. No rot and no leaks.
Wow.
Of course, metal beams running through it, which we didn't know was here, that they installed 50s, around 51 to for earthquake prevention. We had an earthquake back in 1950. I'm not sure.
Okay.
Anyway.
No, it's beautiful. It truly is. And, like you were talking about the floor and the hall, it saw that, that they had, is it like a tile or a paint or something? Or is it they
have 2 tile floors, and in one room they had the tile floor, and then the firemen, I believe, put indoor-outdoor carpet.
They glued on.
Okay.
And they must use every nail they had to hold it down, because we pulled nails out forever. But that's what was underneath. I'm glad because when you walk in now, you can't appreciate what shape it was in, and the work has been done totally by volunteers.
No, it's amazing. And, you guys almost need to have, like a slideshow going, showing the progression, because I think people would be even more impressed. I've been watching and seeing, but I was just amazed all the work. I'm really impressed. I'm doing little things at my house, and I'm like, oh my gosh, it would take forever. No, it's very impressive. But otherwise, like you said, you professionally did the hall, but the classrooms and some of the other pictures, you guys just did the staining and the stripping and the staining yourselves.
Right. Sanded it and stripped it, and then put down the stain. And we left, instead of going all the way down to the bare wood. Well, we are at the bare wood, but we left all the flaws in the floor. We thought, that's the way it worked.
Well, it shows the love and the wear and the use of the building itself too, and sometimes you'll see where, there might be certain directions people are walking up and down. So I think that adds character to it. So, well, this is exciting. Do you want to talk a little bit more about some of your outdoor, um, what you guys have done outside? Because it's amazing with, you have like you were moving it, there were some pictures showing you guys moving some of the farm equipment on, as well as then a basketball court, and then the picnic area. It's very, very well done. And so I just want people to know that it's truly amazing, a lot of passion and love that's gone into it.
That's how it actually first started, was with the outdoor picnic areas. Someone here in Verdi was tearing down a split rail fence, and it gave us the idea, well, let's go in the back there where there's nothing but weeds and a leach field that was covered up. We says, let's just cover this up and put a fence around it. And some barbecues were donated and some tables, and we made a picnic area, and everything went from there. That's how we got going.
And that's
Okay.
to anybody that wants to drive there. I mean, they don't have to reserve it. They can come down. The kids, we actually have an old chest, and it's full of basketballs, and then they have a
Beanbag games.
beanbag. Yeah,
At first, everybody says, oh, you shouldn't leave that out there. It'll be stolen. Actually, the box has gotten more stuff in it. People leave basketballs, more beanbags, and they've been really good about it. But the kids have been taking pretty good advantage of the basketball. And
yeah, it's really great. And the families.
No, I was really impressed, because I was like, okay, what's the blue? Well, it was not before you painted it, I'm like, okay, what is that pole? And then I was like, then I was going through, I'm like, oh, basketball, so the hoops and stuff. So no, you guys have done amazing. And it's just so charming, I'm very impressed with all the work that was done. So,
Thank you.
well, do you want to talk about the school bell? I saw several pictures of the school bell. So was the school bell always at the school? Did it disappear? You guys found it? Is it a different bell?
It's always been at the school, probably when the school was first built, it was a flat top.
Right.
So there wasn't a bell.
right. So then they added the tower and put the school bell up in there. And then
Okay.
when they built the new school in 1962, the county auctioned off, I guess you'd call it an auction, all of those old school equipment. And one Verdi residents bought the school bell, and we thought, why put it back up into the tower? We wanted to be able to see him. So this guy built this holder for it over the original rock that was in the lawn from the old 1899 that's engraved from the Verdi Public School. And it's out in the lawn. It's right below the bell. I guess you can't see it. But we thought...
Yeah, I cropped the picture. I'm sorry. But I did see a stone. Okay.
Yeah, it would bring attention to the rock and the history. So we had to put out there.
Wow. So it goes back. So the stone, is that that's only what's left of, was that where the original school was located?
There's two schools here that when the whole town burned down from the lumber company, the last one in 1923 wiped out the school. And that's in 26, they built this brick schoolhouse.
They opened it.
Okay.
Opened in 26. So.
Okay. Okay. Because there were on your website you did have like a picture showing fire, and so, but I just didn't know timeline. So okay. Yeah, definitely fire has always been an issue for communities, and then going to brick is the next thing. So you were going to say something, Nancy?
That's okay. I was just going to say that the bell is out towards the front of the schoolhouse if you're looking at the school, to the right. And then next to that is the barbecue that was built by the fire department. And that's how they did their barbecues every year. It's a huge outdoor barbecue. And we used it last year when we had our barbecue here. So, yeah, every time you look around, there's some history here. There was a first picture, and I don't know if you have any more on, of this, when we first acquired the old school, and it looked like there was a wooden chair in front.
Yes.
A carpenter come in, and we had taken down 2 huge trees. Good, yes. And he took those trees, what was left of the stumps, and made these chairs for us. And they're fabulous.
They're beautiful. Yeah, they're beautiful. So, that's very cool. I wasn't sure who did that. So, but they're a great piece to showcase, what was left. So, okay. Well, and then too, you talked about the Inyo Marble Company, and then if we go back, there was the sidewalk. There's the little diamonds. So do you guys want to talk a little bit about when you guys were reworking the path up to the building?
Well, my father had acquired a bunch of those, I call them tiles.
Oh, okay.
And he had them at our old house. And actually, they were on the hearth of a fireplace. And in the place, I kept a bunch of them. And the gentleman that volunteered as part of this walk, he says, "What do you want to do with those things?" I said, "It's part of Verdi, we got to set them in the sidewalk." So that's how they ended up there. But they are from the Inyo Marble Works. And actually, that was called Marble, Nevada. MARMOL, Marble, Nevada. And it's Truckee River above the Quillisi Ranch.
Okay.
Those things meant a lot to me because the house I grew up in and where the fireplace was the manager's office at Marble, Nevada. And it was moved down to Verdi, and it became my dad's grocery store and bus stop where we grew up.
Okay. Wow. That's awesome. Well, what I see I've got some questions, so I want to take a look at those. But do you have we covered quite a bit? Are we missing something? I guess. We want to make sure we're talking about everything, and like I said, we'll go through some of the questions I see that are up. But are we missing anything that we've been talking about or not so far?
I don't think we've missed anything as far as the history goes. We could sure use some more volunteers.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Do you guys have like membership drives or, like volunteer days, or, how would they get in hold of if they want to volunteer for your group?
The best probably thing to do is go on to verdihistory@gmail.com and just tell us what you are able to do to help us, or pop in, give us a call. What's the telephone number? 775.
0173.
One more, did we miss the other 3? 775.
345.
345.
Sorry.
Okay.
173, and that's the museum.
Okay.
Unfortunately, we are only there once a week right now, but we will answer your phone calls, answer your Gmails. We will take anybody that will help us. We are starting to have quite a few events this summer scheduled here at the school. And we can always use some volunteers to help set up the tables, the chairs, help with cleanup, whatever needs to be done. So we thank you if that's possible.
Well, and some kudos. The Reno High School ROTC kids came out. We expected 4 or 6. And how many did we have?
19.
19 or 20 kids showed up. And it was hard to keep up with them, tell them what to do because they wanted to clean up everything. I mean, we filled up, had a 3-yard dump trailer. We said, well, just, dump it in there. Well, they had it so overloaded, we had to go get a 10-yard dump trailer to finish off. And they loaded that one too. So those kids were incredible. I mean, that was so much fun. And then they stayed and we cooked them hot dogs. And it was kind of word of mouth where they said, hey, these kids need something for, I guess it's a credit or something.
Right.
But they were so eager to, like I said, it grew from 4 to 19 that showed up.
That's exciting. That's wonderful. Neal.
Yeah, I wanted to add a couple of things about some of the docents from yesteryear. I had a whole bunch of the Crystal Peak rocks that was left to me and one of my renters, and they're big pieces. And Grace Fuji and Buddy Fuji found out about that. And the museum over there didn't have a piece of Crystal Peak. So lo and behold, they talked me out of a couple of big chunks, and those are what's out front. Other things that you could remotely related to the area. I had a friend of mine, Dale Landon, who in 1955, it was either 55 or 56, was offered a couple of bucks to help the guy out at the Donner Trail Ranch tear down the rest of an out tack building that had a whole bunch of equipment in it. And at the end of all of that, the guy that Don, I think was the guy that was out there, was their ranch hand. But he says, what are you going to do with all of this stuff? And Dale says, God, let me have it. I says, I love things like that. So I wound up taking all of that over to the Verdi History Center. It's in one of those glass cases. And here is artifacts from the cavalry dated 1918. So there's a set of chaps, and there's the saddlebags and munitions things. But the relation to Verdi encases other things too. So if anybody out there has got something that's going to relate to Verdi in any way, shape, or form, they love it. They have the best time with these things. And they've put on many different shows of history right out there, had different guests to put on programs, and they put out the notice, and a lot of people show up. So there is interest in Verdi.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
So I do have a few questions here that I'll read. We have a question that a gentleman worked at a dude ranch briefly that was out in Verdi. Do you have any records of any of the dude ranches? And it was he worked out there in 1965. So I think that's a fun question to ask. Do you have any records?
The Donner Trail Ranch was very famous because Reno was the divorce capital of the world. So all of these divorcees, like we should call them, would stay at the Donner Trail Dude Ranch. It became a Dude Ranch. And they'd stay there for their 6 weeks and then get their divorce and throw their rings in the Truckee River, which is another tradition they had. And then in the 50s, the Reno Silver Sox stayed there for 2 or 3 years when Reno had the Reno Silver Sox. And as kids, I mean, this was the greatest thing that ever happened to Verdi. And we would hung out with them and got to go to the games. And I still have autographed baseballs from those teams back it was in the 50s. I couldn't tell you what year, probably 53, 4, 5, somewhere in there.
Okay.
Yeah, that was the Dude Ranch after, there's the ranch was the first one, I can't remember. And it was my grandfather, and then it became Fugits, and then it became the Dude Ranch, and then it became a dinner house. And then they tore it down, which I never understood.
Well, you had mentioned, that now you've got the museum. Are you going to keep both facilities? Kind of one is your research, and then the school is your museum, or are you going to consolidate? That was one of the questions that was asked.
We thank you. We would really like to consolidate. That way that when we do have events here, we would have a room that is dedicated just to the museum and people can see, and then they can tell their friends and say, hey, you need to get to the new school, et cetera, et cetera. So, and it's easier, again, as we say, since we don't have very many volunteers, it's so much easier if we have it all in one place. But that is down the line. We have no idea, we haven't even put a goal on that, but it's a thought. Yes, we would really love to eventually. Thank you.
Okay. There's another question. You mentioned your barbecue in August. They were asking, what is the date for your annual barbecue?
The date was August 13th, and we usually started around 4.
I think it's 4.
Yeah, around 4. We will definitely put it on our Facebook and put it out there for the public. It's our big fundraiser, basically.
Nice.
Mhm.
Okay. There's another question. Somebody's really interested in like post office and postal history. Do you have any materials in your collection pertaining to that kind of history?
We have a whole rack of post office blocks.
Yeah, we have a post office, the old post office boxes.
Okay.
And the keys that go to it. And really that's all we have. And it probably is maybe
4 feet
3 to 4, maybe 4 feet tall. Yeah, it's very small. The boxes are very, well, how many people got mail in those days? Postcards were the main thing. And that's about all the whole. But that unfortunately is all we have as far as the post office goes. We
Okay.
require much more.
Okay. Do you know who designed the school that was completed in 1926? Do you know any of that history?
I don't.
No,
I
I've
never
never
did.
seen anything. That would be a wonderful thing to look up, but no, I have no idea. I'm going to write that down.
Newspapers.com might be a good source for you guys, being able to see, who won the bids and sometimes they get to such minute details of how many bricks they used, so you never know.
Yeah.
So
I'll look that one up. Thank you.
okay. Now going back to the stone, that darn it, I cropped out the picture. So was it part of the original building, or was it just a stone that people carved on that was at the site of the original school? Do you know?
Marked the site of the school, and it was professionally done. Whoever did it back in 1899 was incredible. But this stone is probably 6 feet in diameter.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it's in huge letters, probably a foot or 15 inches long. It says 1899 VPS, and then it has all these initials
Of the kids.
of the kids, I'm assuming.
We assume.
We haven't figured out any of the initials, who they were, but and it's very well preserved, and it's right at ground level. And it's been there since then. Nothing's moved, and it's right here at the location of the schools, all 3 schools.
Mm-hmm.
Very nice. Okay, I do have one more question. It says, how far is the History Center from the school?
A block.
Is it across?
A block across Highway 40. We're up on the hill. It's down below the hill.
Right. If people know where the restaurant Sasquatch is, we're behind Sasquatch. We're on 2nd Street, which is behind Sasquatch. And then the old school, if you are looking at Sasquatch, we're across the street from it, across Highway 40, just going up the hill. So before you get to the new elementary school, you can't miss us. We're a big brick building.
That's awesome. Neal, do you have some more questions or anything else you'd like to?
Yes, we had a lot of fun with an event that happens periodically, in fact, about every day. And they call it, it's a Verdi thing.
Oh,
Yeah.
And I think they can elaborate on that because it's got, they have a sense of humor out there in Verdi too.
yeah, the history, I don't know when it started, but that was the pounding kid.
Yeah.
And they used to ask,
Mhm.
how do you stand the trains out there going through all the time? He says, you wouldn't understand. It's a Verdi thing. Lived on the tracks all our lives. We used to, been here forever.
Yeah. And so we just picked it up. We were able to pick it up, and it was put on our shirts, and it's our motto. It's a Verdi thing. And it probably started, you're right, Neal. It was probably when they were still having before we acquired the museum, it was when they were still at the library, and they would have essays from the kids at the school and get them involved. And there were questions that they had to answer, and that was, you're right. That's as Bud said, that was one of the students had that, and it just clicked. It just absolutely.
It's a good thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, there's another question. Do you guys have any historical information on Hunter's Cross? That's just downstream a bit, or is it more just really Verdi materials in particular?
Yeah.
A lot of information on the railroad, but not Hunter's Crossing. The Hennessy Pass, we had the sign for it when this was the Lincoln Highway that went around before Highway 40, Interstate 80 was built. Like that was in 1937 and ended at Fayrad. And before that, you had to come by the school and you go up through Dog Valley, and that was the Hennessy Pass route. And we have the signs from it, but that's it.
Yeah, we don't have that. No, unfortunately. We have a little bit of information on Mogul and the, what's the house that's there, the Anna,
The old school.
well, the old school, we have pictures of the old school as it was tearing down. But there's a house there, and the people start with, the name starts with an A, and they're an old time people from the 1800s. Anna, I'm sorry, I forgot.
Yeah.
I can see it. Binders full of their stuff.
Not the wrong.
No, not like, and it's in Mogul. It's on the other side of
I
it.
know, I see it.
I know you can see it. Anyway, if you come to the museum, you'll be able to see it.
There you go. There you go. Well, this has been great. I so appreciate you guys being our guest today and talking about your organization and all the great things you guys have done. And we really appreciate it. And I know your organization has done such great things. You know, we wanted to let people know about, how you guys are preserving Verdi's history. So is there anything else you'd like to add before we come to a close here?
I just want to thank you for inviting us and listening to us. And hopefully you come visit us and join us at our barbecue. Don't hesitate to email or call if you want to visit the museum. We probably will have it open that day a little bit early for people that want to see it. But we'll be happy to open it up for you and let you to spend as much time as you want there. It's an amazing place.
That's awesome. Oh, there's one more thing. Of course, I should have mentioned it myself. We have some pictures of, some of the robbers, but the Verdi train robbery, of course, I'm sure you have a little information, but there's not a lot, of course. But do you have information on that at the museum as well?
It actually happened down closer to
Mogul. It
Yeah,
happened
Mogul.
actually Mogul area. But yeah, we have a whole binder full of articles that came out in the newspaper, that stories that were written. Why they say it happened here, we don't know, but it helps with getting people into Verdi. But yes, we do have information on it, but it actually didn't happen here. It happened a couple miles down the road.
Yeah, that's an interesting thing. It's like, oh, it's Verdi. No, it's actually further. But and I know our former curator of history, Phil Earle, he wrote a lot, and used to talk a lot about the train robbery. So it's a great little bit of history, for the area. So, well, thank you, Nancy, and thank you, Bud. This has just been fun. It's been a fun program, and we so appreciate it. And let me just say thank you again, and thank Carol and Sam Coleman and Neal, of course, and the Washoe County Libraries for being our hosts and working with us with this lecture series. We really appreciate it. And I'll turn it back to Samantha.
Yes, thank you all for joining us today. Thank you, Sherry Zorn, Neal Cobb, Nancy Benson, and Bud Mosconi with the Nevada Historical Society, and Russell, our Washoe County Library Tech Wizard, for making this event possible today. If you'd like to see what other events we have, visit us at events.washoecountylibrary.us, where you can also access and download our virtual Explorer, which is a publication listing of all our virtual and in-person events. We'll see you guys next time.
Thank you. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Thank you.